Hello and welcome to week 3 of Crystalline Alchemy, and we are going deep. We're going to be talking about releasing limiting beliefs, cutting cords, and attachments from everything that no longer serves us, specifically with relationships, ways of being, and anything that is holding us back from our greatness. So how does a belief even begin? Well, it can start all the way from when we have our earliest memory. So that is around 2 or 3, or sometimes it's even 7 years old. We are in a theta state for most of the beginning of our life. From 0 to 7, we are basically hanging out in our subconscious mind, and that is when thoughts and beliefs begin to develop. Now, some people can remember anything, like remember when they're in the womb. I don't remember much until I was 6, and I wish I had remembered some parts of my early childhood so I could have some memory of my mom, but I feel like that was also a piece of me that was protecting myself. Now, beliefs can even happen way prior to us even being born. It can happen in our mother's womb, and it can happen in our grandmother's womb, because our DNA, that egg, is already formed and in your grandma's womb, and what's happening is it's beginning to record everything that's happening. When we can release those limiting beliefs and replace them with liberating truths, that is where the magic happens. We are able to change our identity and therefore changing our container. Our container can now hold a bigger, wider being, a being that is confident, a being that is loving, compassionate, and here to be of service. Now, I want to go back to week 1 when we began to discuss the triple goddess and honoring the maiden. The maiden is here to fully express herself, but as a wounded maiden, she can't fully express. It is not safe to fully express herself. And I have felt like this for most of my life. I would say only really in the last 2, maybe even 1 year, where I felt completely free to express myself in the way I want to, in my authentic voice. And the most important part of it is not really giving outside thought of like what other people will think, although that does come up. That is my shadow of like worrying what other people will think of me, and I know that that's a deep wound. That's a limiting belief that I have as I grew up. It was one of our core values was to stay in line, to fall in line, to look like everyone else, to not stand out, because it was safe. If you got a little weird, if you started to, become like, there has been a part of me that has wanted to color my hair a funky color my whole life. And yet, part of my limiting beliefs is telling me that I cannot. And it's still black. And there's parts of me that want to preserve my colored hair because it is what God gave me, but there's that weird freaky side of me that would really love it to be platinum white and purple. Now, what it's going to take to heal that maiden wound, to be that full expression of yourself, is to embrace and identify everything that's holding us back and then letting it go. There are 3 kinds of limiting beliefs. Beliefs about myself, beliefs about others, and beliefs about the world. Now, the beliefs about myself are those scripts that run through your mind in your subconscious telling you how you are being. And they can really get in the way, especially if they aren't truths. But our bodies and our mind and our spirit, our ego is really good at tricking us and making us believe certain things to keep us safe. Because from the moment we are born, and even prior to that, when we're in our womb, the nervous system is recording everything that's happening and deeming it safe or not safe. Is this safe or not safe? Oh, that wasn't safe. Let's not redirect. Let's do that thing that we did yesterday because that was really safe. And it might not serve you in your higher good, but it was safe. So let's just keep doing that. And when we realize and identify that these beliefs are in fact holding us back, now we can develop limiting beliefs that are not necessarily from our parents or caretakers. This could be historical and societal beliefs that have been placed on us to make us believe these certain things about A, being a woman, B, being a witch, and, forcing us to go into hiding. And that is where that wounded maiden comes back into play, is we are not fully expressing ourselves because we are having a fear or this limiting belief that it's going to hurt us, that it's not safe to fully express myself. Because if I do, that would end in persecution. That would end in death. I would be burned. I would be drowned. And that is embedded in our DNA. And so it's up to us at this 0 point where we get to make that conscious choice to heal it, to fully express ourselves. Because when we do, our DNA, that epigenetic aspect of our DNA that science has been able to prove that we can change our makeup on a physical level, on an emotional level, on a mental level, we can change. And it's really awesome. So it takes some work, and it takes a lot of trial and error of what works and what doesn't for you, as far as like, how can I heal this limiting belief that I have of mine? Well, I'll tell you one thing. It's putting yourself out there. It is expressing yourself in your full authenticity and discovering what that means. And that's what we're going to be doing in Crystalline Alchemy, is stepping into the edges that we are wanting to explore, but haven't had the container or the courage to try them out yet. And I encourage you, and that's why I keep pushing you and stretching all of you to play with those edges, to go live on Facebook. And there's going to be far more stretches going out there, and it's not going to only be in our container. So I want you to be prepared for that. And I have seen and witnessed this happen before in my coaching groups, and the results are amazing. And I do challenge and stretch my clients with ways of expressing themselves publicly. And it's so profound how healing it can be, because you really don't know whose lives you're going to touch when you are put yourself out there, when you are vulnerable, when you fully embody yourself. It's so inspiring, and I want you to know that your medicine is so needed. And the more you express, and whether that's through writing, through music, through, it doesn't even necessarily have to be your face. It could be anonymous. It could be a ghostwriter, or this ways of expression that it's mysterious and really fun that way. And also creating connections outside of social media with your closest loved ones who might not quite know what you're up to or what you've been doing. And yeah, continuing to put yourself out there and to smash those limiting beliefs by creating new truths and new evidence that you are in fact enough and that you are worth it and that these gifts are real. I was reading about a method by a man named Michael Hyatt, and he transforms limiting beliefs into liberating truths. And he gave this really great example of how our limiting belief can turn into our reality. See, Michael thought he was an introvert, so he ended up using that as an excuse. And what it really was doing was preventing him from growing because he believed he was shy and that was just his way of being, when in fact he was just using it as a crutch. Now I want you to think back and look at things that are going on in your life that we might use as an excuse. And in fact, it is just preventing us from living that life we want to live, from truly being this fully expressed self. Here are some limiting belief examples. I am not good enough. I do not have enough time. I do not have enough experience yet. I am too old. I am too young. I am waiting for it to be perfect. These are all core root limiting beliefs that have been embedded in our mind to hold us back. And really, if you think about it, everything is in divine timing. This is our divine assignment. We are in the perfect place at the perfect time always. And if we can remember that, we'll know that every challenge that we face, everything that has been handed to us by Source, by Creator, by God, it's all this divine orchestration to help us and our soul evolve and to grow and to expand. Because again, like we've said before, we are the universe experiencing itself. And if we could pull back and look at it at that perspective, it's so beautiful. And this is our challenge, right? Is can we get over ourselves, basically? Can we get out of our own way? Because we are really essentially our own worst enemy, and the only thing that can disempower you is yourself. So we're here to call back our power, to heal these core wounds so that we can move forward and truly live the life that we want to live. It's getting really clear about a few things, and these are our powerful questions and your assignment this week. And I really want you to take some time to think about this. What beliefs do I have that are limiting my ability to move forward? And I want you to answer that. So what beliefs do you have that are limiting you from moving forward? Write that down. And then I want you to ask yourself, is this really true? Is there something else I need to believe that is rooted in reality? I want to use this example I found via Teal Swan. And she talks about our desires and our beliefs. And I want you to think about, are my beliefs a vibrational match with our desires? First, how we can identify that is going to the core belief, the root belief. What is decreasing your vibration? Secondly, I want you to examine your belief and ask yourself and really question, does this belief serve me? Is it beneficial or detrimental? And if you see that this is a detrimental belief to your overall well-being, you get to make a choice and decide what is the truth. What would you rather believe? Now I want you to decide whether that emotional payoff of choosing not to try something new is worth your limitations. Now Teal uses this really great example of a table. And the tabletop is your belief. And the legs are the evidence and experiences that are holding up this belief. And that the emotional payoff is the glue holding the legs to the tabletop. Now, what can we do to loosen that glue so that we can create a new belief? Well, you can create a liberating truth by finding new evidence to create a new belief of, for example, I am not good enough. Well, that used to be something my dad would tell me all the time. He would criticize me and judge me and tell me that that's not good enough, you could do better. And maybe he was looking out for my highest good, but that created the belief, the thought, and then the feeling of, well, I'm just never good enough. And is that a reflection of how he felt about himself? So I can create a new belief that had nothing to do with me. So let me go out there and create new evidence that I am truly good enough to be a healer, to share my expression and my art, because that's who I am truly deep inside. Not what he expected me to be or what he expected me to do. And this is a perfect segue into cords of attachment. Cords are energy that are shaped like umbilical cords that attach from one person to another, or one person to an event or situation, that can drain us of our energy, affect our energy. And these cords transfer energy of information and emotions. So when we find ourselves attached to cords of people that don't necessarily serve our well-being, we tend to feel drained or tired or confused and distorted because we have so many of these cords attached to us, like everywhere. And taking a moment to just close your eyes and creating that third eye awareness of where they're actually sitting in your body. Creating protocols around clearing our energy, especially as healers and psychics. This will help us detach from energy that doesn't belong to us because we're in it. We're in the trenches working with people who have energy that is negative, is stagnant, and we have to make sure that we're clearing ourselves almost constantly so that we can remain in our sovereign, peaceful space. And it's recognizing that in our soul sabbaticals, how my energy feels like when I am alone compared to when I'm being exposed to energies that don't serve me. Now with my dad, I know that Ryan likes to call him the repressed, angry Asian man that lives inside of me. And this cord that I share with my dad runs so deep that it's been a constant process of clearing and cleansing. And he used to show up a lot in much, much worse ways. And now he's still there, and it certainly shows up when I'm triggered or vulnerable, especially if I'm tired and hungry, or I have a limiting belief running through my mind. he'll show up. And this cord, I don't think I've even truly been consciously, now that I talk about it, like ready to fully cut him out of my life. He is no longer in my life, so I think maybe there's a part of me that wants to keep him around, even though I know he doesn't serve me, and it's certainly an energy leak, and it kind of shows up in my relationships with the people closest to me. Now, there are certain ways that we can let these cords go by cutting them. And there are different energy healers out there who have different methods, because, you know, it really is up to your discretion of like what you feel is true, as long as you are in the practice of cutting those cords. Now, some people use scissors. I like the white sword of light. I gather all of my cords here in my solar plexus and I pull them out like a rope, and I go cut, 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 or people go cut, 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 and then you plug it into a higher source or you return it back to sender. Now, people argue that this is not a tried and true method of cord cutting, because if you are a gardener and you are just cutting the weeds and not actually pulling them out from the root, you're not fully clearing yourself of those cords, and they may grow back bigger and stronger, and they'll continue to just come back and get you. So I think that's also part of the learning process of letting go and releasing those limiting beliefs, is every time that those situations or those triggers do come up again, you're going to be asked the question, what do I choose this time? So I'm asking you, when those limiting beliefs come up, what do you choose this time? All right, so I'm going to leave you with that. I love you. I cherish you. I want you to go out there and kick ass this week. Smash those limiting beliefs. You can do this.